Hello. Welcome to another exciting edition of Free Advice Friday. Looking forward to hanging out with you guys on a Friday afternoon and answering as many of your voiceover business and marketing questions as I possibly can, which is the goal. As many Fridays as I am able to join in here on Free Advice Friday. As always, while we're waiting for people to jump into the live stream and waiting for people to come up with some questions that they would like to ask and get answered, I did have something that I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about websites a little bit. I've done quite a few coaching sessions this week where one of the primary themes that we've been looking at is websites. Voice actors wanting to get a little bit of feedback on their website and, is there anything that I can do to change it or anything that I should do to change it? Is there anything that I can or should do to improve it? And so I wanted to come up with or share a few different tips based off of some of the things that I saw this week in coaching sessions. And so if you happen to be in one of those coaching sessions, you inspired me. And so thank you for that. Keep in mind that, the end objective here is never to hurt anybody's feelings or make them feel bad about their website, but it's always to help them make sure that they're putting their best foot forward. Next to your demos, your website is one of your primary marketing tools. And so we want to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward with those websites. So there's a couple of things that came up repeatedly, and I wanted to share those tips with you right now. So first and foremost is it's so important to look at your website through the eyes of your buyer. And I think this is probably one of the biggest mistakes that we're making because we're thinking about our websites for ourselves, which your website is obviously supposed to be about you. We want it to be able to promote what we have to offer, promote our voiceover services. That's key, obviously. But ultimately, your website is for the buyer. Have you ever looked at your website through your buyer's eyes? Have you ever surfed your website thinking about your buyer's perspective? When you go through your website, you know what's supposed to be there. You know what the purpose of each section of content is. You know what your thought process was while you were creating it. And that's great that you do, but does your buyer? And this is something that I see a lot where we're thinking about our website through our own lens, but we're not thinking about our website through the lens of the potential buyer and giving that potential buyer what they need. Now, if you don't have the ability to sit down with a potential buyer and say, look at my website, tell me what you think, what you could do is maybe send it to 5 people in your network who aren't as familiar with you. And I wouldn't even suggest voice actors. I would suggest people who are outside of the voiceover industry, but they could be people in your network, coworkers, people you've worked with in the past, family members, somebody from your church, somebody from a community organization, somebody from your hockey team, whatever. But send them to your website and ask them to look at it and give you some honest feedback. Could they figure out very quickly what the website was about? Was it very obvious to them what you had to offer? Were they able to find the different sections that they needed to be able to find in order to get an educated opinion of who you are and what you do? And that can be a really interesting exercise. So that's number 1 on the list, looking at your website through the eyes of your buyer. Number 2 on the list, and these are in no particular order, to be clear. Let's just say that 10 voice actors marketed to the same company on a given day, and you were one of those voice actors. So you and 9 other voice actors land in the inbox of a highly reputable, highly respected video production company, as an example. Out of the 10 websites that producer looked at on a given day, where is yours going to rank? Is it going to rank first, or is it going to rank 10th, or is it going to rank 5th? Is your website going to stand out, and how is it going to stand out? Is it going to stand out in a good way because it's a great website, it's a clean website, professionally designed website? Or is your website going to stand out in a bad way because it's an amateur website? It's something that you tried to build as cheaply as possible, and maybe you're not really a web developer. And look, hey, I understand, been there, done that, made those mistakes early on. But this is one of the questions that you have to ask yourself, because the reality is some of these production companies that you're going to be reaching out to, other voice actors are reaching out to them as well. So when you reach out to those production companies, is your website making a good first impression, or is your website making a bad first impression? It's an important question that you need to ask. So where do you think your website ranks? And if it doesn't rank where you think it should, then of course the next question is, what can I do to fix that? Now, in a perfect world, we would all be in a place where we can go out and hire somebody like Voice Actor Websites to build our website for us. But it's not a perfect world. Not everybody can afford to go out and do that out of the gate. I couldn't afford to go and do that out of the gate. And so what I did instead was I built a website using WordPress, but I went out and purchased a premium theme. So I went to graphicriver.net, bought a theme for 50 or 60 bucks, and it immediately made a huge difference on how my website looked. And I knew that made a difference in how my website was perceived. So just think, if your website was being looked at alongside of 9 other voice actors on a given day, are you confident with the impression that your website is making? So that's number 2 on the list. Number 3 on the list, are your demos downloadable? I cannot stress this enough. As somebody who has helped clients with castings in the past, I don't always have the opportunity to put out an actual casting and collect actual auditions. Sometimes my clients come, they're looking for something very specific. Maybe they're looking for something in a hurry. Maybe they want to be able to do the casting. They just want me to give them some names that I can refer them to. No problem. So I will go to websites of voice actors who are in my network, and I will download their demos. But if I go to your website and I can't download your demos, that's a problem. I need to be able to download your demos. Go check it. Not right now. Wait until Free Advice Friday's over. But go check your website this afternoon and make sure that your demos are downloadable. And if they aren't, consider something like VoiceSam. I'm a huge fan of VoiceSam. I love the way that it breaks up the demos. I love the way that it allows you to label the demos. I like the fact that you can get analytics if you want. There are a lot of upsides to using a player like VoiceSam on your website. If you use the link that's on your screen right now, if you go to voicesam.com/Marc Scott, you get a $25 credit. Sign up. Use a player like that. It's a player that producers love. And remember what we said at the very beginning, are you making sure that you are building your website for your buyer? If you're building your website for your buyer, then we want to build a website that the producers are going to love. So consider something like VoiceSam. There's the website, voicesam.com/Marc Scott. All right, next up on the list, is it clear who you are and what you have to offer? A lot of voice actors, particularly new voice actors, when you're starting out, you're not sure what goes on your website. You don't know what you don't know, and that's completely fair. So you will put your demos on your website. Maybe you put a little bit of your bio on your website. Maybe you talk a little bit about your training on your website. Maybe you got a contact link on your website. But does that give the buyer a clear indication of who you are and what you do? Do you talk about the genres of voiceover that you do? Do you talk about your home studio? Do you talk about your ability to do a directed session? Do you talk about whether or not you have Source Connect? So remember, we're looking at the website from the perspective of a buyer. Are you giving them the information that you need? Next up on the list, is your website unique? I actually was on a couple websites this week that used an almost identical tagline, giving your words life. This is a really common line. I'll tell your stories. I'll give your words life. I'll bring your words to life. Let me bring your script to life. Let me give your script a voice. There's certain phrases that get used over and over and over again. And it's not that there's anything inherently wrong with those phrases, but if 5 other voice actors are using that exact phrase, then how are you standing out in a unique way? So that's something to think about as well. Are you using something that is branded specifically to you? Or are you just using some catchy slogan that you heard or you thought of, or maybe you saw somewhere else, and that's what you're putting on your website? And then the final thing I would say is, what's the obvious next step? So I go to your website, I listen to your demos, I can see very clearly that you are a voice actor who works in the corporate video space, and I'm looking for a voice actor who does corporate video. I understand that you've got a professional studio, that a Source Connect session is an option, which is great because that's what I was thinking that I wanted. What is the obvious next step? If I decide now, okay, I'm ready to work with you, what do I do next? Can I figure it out? Is there a clear call to action on your website that tells the buyer exactly what the next step is in your journey together? If your website is missing a very clear call to action, your website is missing a very key component. So there you go. A few different things that you can think about. Take a look at your website from that lens. Most importantly, look at it through the lens of the buyer and make sure that it is giving all of the things that it needs to give in order for a buyer to make a decision about whether or not they would ultimately decide that they want to work with you. So this is Free Advice Friday. Of course, I'm here to answer your questions. And so if you do have a question that you would like to ask and answer, this is your opportunity to do it. Feel free to type your question into the comments. If you can put a Q beside your question, it makes it a little bit easier for me to see. It pops out on my screen. And so that helps me when I'm sorting through all of the different things that are in there. Andy B says, do you rely on a teleprompter? Andy, I wing it all. And I'm not saying that you should do that. I'm just saying that that is what I do. I wing it all. I do not have a teleprompter. I am literally making all of this stuff up as I go. Would my life be easier with a teleprompter? Yes, probably. And it is something that I have thought about. But then if I have a teleprompter, I have to write a script. And if I have to write a script, then it takes more time. And so I usually just end up winging it. Natalie says, do kids' toy commercials pay as well? Are there an abundance of as regular commercials? I think a commercial is a commercial is a commercial. So I think if you are working in a commercial, I don't think that there are commercials. Generally speaking, rates for commercials are divided up into certain categories. So usually that is divided by where they are going to be used. Is this a local? Is it a regional? Is it a national? And they're divided up by how long they are going to be used. Is this going to be used for a 13-week cycle, for a 26-week cycle? Is this going to be used for 1 year? Is this going to be used on broadcast television, or is it going to be used on Spotify, or is it going to be used on YouTube? Those are the things that matter in determining rates. And I think that is something that you can see if you look at the GVAA rate guide, or if you look at the Gravy for the Brain rate guide, you'll see those are the parameters. So it's not a matter of, well, this commercial's for a pharmaceutical company and this commercial is for a children's toy, and so the pharma deserves this rate and the children's toy deserves this rate. The rate is based on where is it going to be used or aired, and how long is it going to be used or aired for? And that's the thing that matters. Now, does that mean that you're not going to see certain jobs for certain types of companies posted perhaps on online casting at different rates? I mean, that's entirely possible. But if I'm quoting a project out, what that script is for or what that commercial for doesn't matter to me nearly as much as where it's going to be used and how long it's going to be used for. And that is the thing that I am using to make that determination. Are there still kids commercials? Absolutely. I mean, if you watch Saturday morning cartoons, I have a toddler right now. She watches commercials, or she watches television. There are still commercials on kids TV. I think a lot of those commercials now are moving to the digital space, though. And so that's something else to be thinking about. I can tell you confidently that the Boo watches way more YouTube than she does regular cable television. And I think that's a pretty common trend, actually. And so some of those ads may be moving more towards the digital space. And so that's something that you think about. Who's creating the digital ads? Maybe it's not the traditional advertising agency who might be creating the broadcast ads. Maybe you need to start looking for digital advertising agencies who are creating some of the digital ads. The website info is a good reminder. I got my website viewed and critiqued by a website specialist and voice actor at WovoCon, and he did suggest a couple tweaks, so I need to get on that. One of the things that I have suggested in the past, and I stand by that suggestion, if you go to voice actor websites, which is one of the most popular developers for websites. Half the voice actors in the free world have had their website built by voice actor websites. So if you go to their website, voiceactorwebsites.com, look at their design portfolio. This is a very extensive design portfolio. If you just spent an afternoon looking through all of the different websites that they have built and paying attention to what are the things that pop up consistently, what sections seem to be there more often than not. If you just did that, it would give you greater insight into what you may or may not need to add on your own voiceover website. And so that's an easy tool that you can use. Andy says, is it possible to improve and progress without paying for coaching, in your humble opinion? I suspect I already know, but how did you feel about the Yankees shortfall? Okay, so first and foremost, nothing brings me more joy than watching the Yankees lose. And obviously, as a diehard Red Sox fan, to see Mookie Betts get another World Series, that makes me very happy too. Although it makes me a little sad that one day Mookie Betts is going to go into the Hall of Fame, and he is probably going to go in as a Dodger as opposed to a Red Sox. So that makes me a little sad. But at the same time, if he goes into the Hall of Fame, I'm pretty happy about that. So that's my controversial take on the Yankees. Thank you for asking. Is it possible to improve and progress without working with a professional coach or paying for a professional coach? 100% it is. But with this caveat, when we practice something, we're trying to learn through repetition. So every time we sit down with a script, let's just say that we have 5 practice scripts a day, just for the fun of it. So we have 5 practice scripts a day, and we sit down and we read and record those 5 scripts, and we do that daily. So ultimately, we do 25 scripts in a week. We record 100 practice scripts in a month. So if we do that over the course of the year, we've recorded 1,200 practice scripts. And so we're trying to learn through repetition. But are we repeating good habits or bad habits? Because just because you're practicing something repeatedly doesn't specifically mean that you're practicing it the right way. So if you have bad habits, we'll call it, with your voiceover reads, but you're consistently practicing and reinforcing those bad habits, you're getting better at doing it wrong. You're not getting better at doing it good. And so where we need the coach, the professional coach, is to come in and say, Mark, you're doing this wrong, or Mark, you're doing this right. Mark, practice this way more. Mark, practice this way less. So that if I continue to do my 25 scripts a week, my 100 scripts a month, my 1,200 scripts a year, at the end of the year, I've reinforced good habits. I've reinforced doing voiceover the right way. And that is what I think that we need from a good coach. So is it possible to practice without paying? Yes. Is it always going to be bad? No, I wouldn't say that. But I do think that you have to be very cautious of making sure that you're practicing doing things the right way. So I would rather spend a little bit of money on a coach up front to make sure that I'm reinforcing good habits. Dion Marie says, where does SEO come into play? This is a really great question. And I'll tell you what, this is something that I am going to be watching very closely for the next little while. Maybe you guys saw the announcement, was it yesterday or the day before? OpenAI introduced search in ChatGPT. If you've done searches in Google recently, you've probably noticed that Gemini, which is Google's AI, is providing summarized responses depending on the search query. It's the number one result, right? It's the result right at the top of the page when you do a search. And so I'm very curious to see how AI coming into the mix and AI search coming into the mix is going to impact SEO. I still think there's going to be massive value in SEO. I just wonder whether or not the way that we do SEO is going to have to change. There's always been rules for SEO that have primarily been dictated by Google and the Google search algorithms. And it is not uncommon for people to figure out all of the rules of the Google algorithm, dominate in SEO, and then Google makes a change because they've people gamify the system, or they want to re-level the playing field, or whatever it is. And so SEO is one of those things where it's constantly evolving. You've got to be able to stay on top of it. I wonder if that's going to happen again with AI being introduced into the mix. But that being said, do I still think there's value in SEO? 100%. I still think there's value in SEO. And I think that you will find voice actors who are investing in SEO, you will find that they are seeing a higher percentage of work walking through the door. So that would be buyers coming directly to your website and hiring you directly through your website. And so I absolutely think that there is value there. You've mentioned not using the word unsubscribe in your marketing emails so that people don't think they're being targeted by a big company. What language do you use? I've been using opt out. I just, if you don't no longer wish to receive emails, click here. Like it literally could be that simple. I do try to be very cautious of the word unsubscribe because I'm not actually subscribing. The prospects that I'm reaching out to consistently, I'm not subscribing them to a newsletter. And so I'm just periodically reaching out just to bring myself top of mind with them. So they aren't specifically subscribed to anything. And I know we're talking gray area, we're arguing semantics here, but that's why I don't want to use the word unsubscribe, because I don't want them to think that they are on a list, but I also want to be able to give them the opportunity to say, I don't need your emails anymore, and that's fine. And just to be clear, I've had prospects and clients in the past who have opted out of receiving my emails, but they still continue to hire me. They just don't need the emails, and that's fine. And so that's the only thing there I would say is it's just it's the subtle differences in the language that I think impact the perspective that they have on what they may or may not be signed up for. So again, guys, if you have questions for Free Advice Friday, feel free to type them into the comments, put that Q up on the screen. If you haven't had a chance to listen to the new episode of the podcast yet, let me strongly encourage you to listen to this episode. Sarah Kramer tells a fascinating and inspiring story of her path to Disney Lucasfilm and landing a role on the latest Star Wars animated series, Young Jedi Adventures. And there's a very specific reason why I wanted Sarah to tell her story, because Sarah did not do it the traditional way. Sarah did not move to LA, land the big name LA agent. She went out and got this work on her own through her own hustle. She went out and did it through her own VOpreneur mentality. And so that's why I really wanted her to come on and share her story. And I think it's a really powerful, really inspiring story. And of course, you can listen to that wherever fine podcasts are given away for free, or feel free to watch it right here on the YouTube channel. Hey, when Free Advice Friday is done, look it up. The episode is there and you can watch it. Really, really great interview with Sarah. I feel like I'm missing it on the website, but where do we go to sign up for the one-to-one for the playbook, folks? Oh, yeah, sure, Aisha. If you go, when you log in to VOpreneur.com/login, go to that VOpreneur.com/login. When you log in, you will see a playbook coaching. There's an option for playbook coaching, and you can book your private time there. All right. Thanks for all the questions, guys. Great to see so many people watching today. Certainly appreciate it. Yay to Shohei and the Dodgers. Yes, congratulations, of course, to Shohei Ohtani, of course. Again, if you have a question that you would like to ask, don't be shy. Julie Williams says, practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanence. And that's a great quote. That is a great quote, because if you're practicing the wrong things, or if you are practicing in the wrong way, all you are doing is reinforcing those bad habits, and that is not going to serve you down the road. So you have to be very careful about what and how you are practicing. Cameron says, do you think there's value in having a more unique business card? I've seen something besides an actual business card, like pens with their info, stickers, etc. I think there's always an opportunity to stand out. The biggest thing for me is the convenience factor. So what do you do with a business card? You take that business card, you stick it in your pocket, you stick it in your wallet, you shove it in your purse, you put it in the swag bag that you got from the conference. A very small percentage of people are actually going to come home and do something with that business card. They're going to sit them in a pile. They're going to say, I'll get to them later, but they're never actually going to get to them later or whatever. And so I'm not saying there's no value there. I'm just saying sometimes it's hard to stand out when everybody's doing the exact same thing. So if you can give me something that stands out in a different way, and I'm a big fan of something that's useful, I think there's certainly an argument to be made for that. But it comes down to convenience. So if you give me a pen, as you mentioned, a specific example of a pen, how hard is it for me to get the information that I need off of that pen? Like if the website is there, but it's really, really small, that may not work for some people. But if there's an easy QR code that I could scan, maybe that makes a difference. And so I think there's certainly an opportunity to stand out and do something unique in your marketing. A lot of people are talking about these digital business cards now. I on one hand, I love the idea of it because obviously I have my phone with me always. And if you can instantly put your stuff in my phone, that probably makes my life a little bit easier. At the same time, I'm like, man, do I really want strangers to be able to just beam things into my phone? Like, is there a risk factor that comes with that? And so then that's something else that I think about as well. So definitely some variables there, but certainly there's an opportunity for unique swag and unique marketing collateral other than just the traditional business card. Is it better to send out 100 generic cold emails versus 10 tailored emails on a given day? I am always going to go for the tailored email. Let me put the question back to you. Emails land in your inbox all day long. We all get marketed to. You get somebody trying to sell you SEO, somebody trying to sell you a lead list, somebody trying to sell you a website, somebody trying to sell you whatever, name it. Of all the emails that land in your inbox, of the ones that you ultimately choose to read, which ones do you choose to read? The ones that sound completely generic, like they could literally be sent to anybody? Or will you read the one that is more personalized and tailored specifically to you? I know for me, I am much more likely to read the one that is specifically tailored to me. And so I always think that that's key. I am all about the personalization. Can you do generic emails at a greater scale? Sure you can. But you have to in order to be able to get some of them to actually stick. And everything that I see, both from my own efforts, from coaching other voice actors who are doing email marketing, and everything that I'm reading, the research that I do, because I'm a student of marketing, everything that I read says generic email does not work. So I try not to do it. I'm thinking about using small QR codes for email and website direct access for phone Android while leaving enough clear space for the lead to write things down. I think that's also important. I do think that there is a certain percentage of people who are going to take your business card. And granted, this might be a demographic thing as well. But there's certainly a case to be made for leaving white space on the card. Maybe I want to be able to make a note about what we talked about. Maybe I want to be able to make a note about where we met. Or maybe I want to make a note about, we said we were going to grab lunch next week or whatever it was. And yeah, you can do that on your phone, sure. But sometimes it's nice to be able to write it right on the business card. And so I do think that there is a strong use case for that. In the spirit of know your audience, what are some top things we should learn about the person we are reaching out to? If you're talking about from an email marketing perspective and you're wanting to just be able to send a more personalized, targeted email, I got to be very careful with the word personalized because it's the right word, but it isn't. And I'm not tailored, maybe is the better word, sending a tailored message. So let's just say that you're reaching out to Joe Smith at the production company. When I say that you need to write a personalized message to Joe Smith, I am not saying that you need to deep dive into Joe Smith's life and write a very personal message to Joe Smith. What I'm saying is you need to write a personalized message to the company. Joe Smith just happens to be the recipient. And so maybe that's where the word tailored might be more appropriate. Write a tailored message. So taking literally 60 seconds, 2 minutes on a website, just to get a clearer understanding of the company, the work that they do, the work that they've done, who they've worked with, things of that nature. Just spending those 2 minutes and then incorporating the things that you've learned into an opening paragraph in an email, I think can make a really big difference. Aisha says, the option for playbook coaching isn't on the page, only book a consult. Am I crazy? This is stressing me out because you're going away. Okay. Aisha, send me an email directly to mark@markscottvoiceover.com, and I will help you with that after the live stream, so we can take a look into that and see if there's a problem with what's going on there. And I will address that. So send me a message directly, mark@markscottvoiceover.com. And once I get off here, jump off at 2:00. We'll take a look at that. Cameron says, I hate the digital business card thing. Personally, I probably don't want the pressure of waiting there with a stranger scanning it in front of them, then confirming I got it and looking at it. And I do think that that's valid. And that was exactly what I was talking about. On one hand, there's certainly a case to be made for the ease of use of it and the fact that it's right there in my phone. On the other hand, there's an inherent awkwardness that comes from that. But let me also say, because I'm not just a student of marketing, I am becoming a student of generational marketing. I'm a Gen Xer. And the way that I think about technology and the way that I use and interact with technology is not the same as the way that a Gen Z will. Older Gen Zs right now are like 28 years old, something like that. These are people who literally have lived their entire lives with technology. They've lived their entire lives with the world that they've grown up in has been a social media, iPhone connected world and technology. And so my hesitation to it, I could say it's about the technology and the awkwardness of the technology, but it might just be that I'm an old fart and how I interact with the technology. I don't want to admit that, but I'm just trying to be honest with you. And so that is something that I've studied as well, or that I am studying as well. In fact, I'm reading a book right now on marketing to Gen Z and just trying to understand how their brain works and how they think about and approach marketing and business as well. Because at 28 years old, this is a group that's entering the buyer pool and not entering the buyer pool for voice acting, right? They're becoming decision makers at companies. They're the ones that are going to start making the decisions about who they're going to work with, what voice actors are going to hire, what a project's going to take shape like, et cetera, et cetera. And so I want to understand that. And so I do think that there's something to be said for who wants to have the old school business card, who wants to be able to take a note on that business card versus, who wants me to beam it to their phone. And I think there's a generational thing that is in play there as well. Absolutely. Guys, can I just take a minute to remind you that I got a brand new live workshop that I'm going to be teaching twice next week. Cash in on the holidays. One of those is going to happen November 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern. Let's be honest. Do you really want to sit at home on November 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern and stress over election results? No, of course you don't want to be doing that. Wouldn't you so much rather be hanging out with me on a live workshop, talking about marketing and how you are going to grow your business over the course of the holidays? So November 5th, 7 p.m. Eastern. And then the second workshop is going to be happening on November 7th at 1 p.m. Eastern. So again, this is cash in on the holidays. This is going to be a 60-minute workshop where I'm going to teach you over a dozen different low-cost, no-cost strategies that you can use for marketing your voiceover business over the holiday. And so if you're interested in signing up for that workshop, it is on the website. If you go to VOpreneur.com, click on the store button, VOpreneur.com, click on the store button. I will tell you right now, the webinar, live workshop happening via Zoom. It's $47. It's a low-cost webinar, but a high-value webinar. But after the event is complete, anybody who signs up will get access to a video recording. So if you're unable to attend live for any reason, don't worry. You will get access to the video recording. But after the event happens, the price of the workshop goes up to $97. So buy in now and save yourself almost half. $47 Check that out at VOpreneur.com and click on the store button. Look for Cash In on the Holidays. I taught this class last year, and it was so well received that I thought I should maybe tweak it a little bit, do it again this year. And keep in mind, although I'm teaching strategies specifically in this case, we're using the theme of the Christmas holiday season. The reality is that you could take the principles that you learn and you could just as easily apply them to Halloween or the 4th of July or New Year's or Valentine's Day or whatever. And so it's just a general webinar giving you some skill set that you can use to market your voiceover business throughout a holiday season. Is it better marketing to send old school paper Christmas cards versus digital Christmas cards? And until when should Christmas cards arrive in the Western world? So this is a really good question. I have experimented with this particular thing in the past, and I can tell you that I sent old school, handwritten, branded Christmas postcards to clients. And I did this for a few years. And I got way more response to that than I ever got to anything that I did digitally. And I think it's because nobody else is doing it, or very few are doing it. It's so easy to send an email. And if you're not going to do anything, send the email. To be clear, send a holiday greeting, absolutely. Send out an email that lets your clients know what your availability is going to be over the holidays. Send out an email that is going to let your clients know how much you've appreciated working with them for the past year. Of course, do that. But if you want to stand out in a slightly different way, I will say that those handwritten postcards successfully achieved that for me, because it's just something that not a lot of people are doing anymore. And so it's a way to be unique and stand out. If you wanted to send those postcards out, I mean, you mentioned when should I have those postcards here? Let me just pull up my calendar very quickly, and we'll say Christmas is happening on a Wednesday this year. I mean, if you got them, if they were delivered by the 20th, and I mean, even if they arrive a day or two late, like nobody, it's not going to hurt anybody's feelings. I still think the sentiment is there. And it's something that's definitely going to stand out. Again, if you guys have a question that you would like to ask and answer for Free Advice Friday, please don't be afraid to pop that question into the comments. If I missed your question, first of all, I apologize. Second of all, don't be afraid to pop it into the comments again. There's a lot of comments coming up very fast and furious in here, so I'm trying to catch everything. But if I did miss one, please don't be afraid to ask again. Make sure you put that Q beside it, because that Q beside it definitely makes it a little bit easier for me to see. I'm just kind of scrolling through the comments right now. Let's see what I can find. But don't be shy. If you have a question that you would like to ask and get answered, what would you suggest the frequency that a demo should be refreshed? Ooh, this is a really good question. I think it probably varies from genre to genre. I think there are probably two primary factors, and I know Uncle Roy is watching right now. And Uncle Roy, if you have thoughts on this, feel free to chime in the comments. Factor number one, are you better than you were when you recorded it? What I mean by that is, when you're first starting out, your first demo is always going to be your worst demo. It just is, because it's your first demo. The rate of return for improvement is going to shift over time. So your first demo might only last you for a year. But your second demo, maybe it lasts you for 2. And maybe your third demo lasts you for 3 or 4. Again, depends on genre. But the idea here is just that as you improve, make sure that your demo is an accurate reflection of where you are today. So that would be one thing that I would say. The second thing I would say is make sure that your demo is an accurate reflection of what is booking today. So is your demo on trend with what is happening in the marketplace today? And so that's where I think certain genres, demos change more quickly. Commercial might change more quickly than corporate narration, for example. But that would be the second thing. Is it on trend and current to what is booking in the marketplace today? And then the third factor that you might want to think about is there anything in my demo that dates my demo? So for example, if you started voiceover in 2020 and you've got a pandemic spot in your demo, you would probably want to get rid of that spot. Now, does that mean you need to redo the whole demo? No, not necessarily. Maybe you just need to redo that one demo. If you've got a political demo and it's still talking about Hillary Clinton in the race, might be time to update that demo. If you've got a demo that represents a brand that is no longer in existence, or a brand that has gone through a complete overhaul of the brand, and so now the spot is outdated, that would be something else that I would want to take into consideration. So those are a few factors that I think that you want to be thinking about. If you are enjoying Free Advice Friday today, first of all, thank you so much for watching. I always appreciate it when you guys come and join me. I love hanging out with you. I love answering your questions. It helps to keep me sharp as a coach and gives me a better sense of what's going on in the industry and what areas are important to you and where I might be able to help you. So thank you for what you give to me on Free Advice Friday. But if you are enjoying the broadcast, if you're getting your questions answered, if you feel like you're getting some good advice, if you could do me a quick favor and hit that thumbs up icon, I would certainly appreciate that as well. A reminder, if I missed your question, don't be afraid to type it again. I certainly am not trying to miss any questions on purpose, but there are just a lot of questions that were popping up particularly early. So I'm just kind of scrolling back through the comment feed right now, looking to see if there's anything that I did miss. But don't be shy. I'm here to help. When you reach out to cold prospects, do you automate follow-ups or do you do them manually? I've used GMass for their clean auto follow-up feature, but it's not the most straightforward workflow with CRMs. Okay, so I want to make sure that we're on the same page as far as you said when you reach out to cold prospects. So for me, I have 3 classifications in my database. I have lead, I have prospect, and I have client. 3 classifications. Lead is somebody that I have either not reached out to yet or somebody that I have reached out to that I have not had any kind of back and forth interaction with yet. A prospect is someone who I have reached out to who I have had some sort of interaction and a positive interaction. So I've reached out to them and they've replied, Mark, we love your demo. Mark, we think you're great. Mark, we'll add you to our roster. Mark, we'll keep you in mind, whatever. So some sort of positive interaction. At that point, I convert them from lead to prospect. And then client obviously speaks for itself. Can you automate your follow-ups to cold leads? 100% you can. I still think that it is absolutely important and to your advantage to make sure that you are sending a personalized introductory email, but I do think that the follow-ups can be automated. Where I would take it one step further to make them more personalized is I have different follow-up cycles for different genres. So let's get into, because I don't want to make this confusing because we're talking about the word personalization again. I have a follow-up sequence that is specific to e-learning leads. And the things that I say in that follow-up sequence are specific to e-learning leads. That's one of the ways that I make that follow-up. Even though it's a generic message, it comes across more personal because the information is specifically targeted to the recipient. I'm not going to talk about my e-learning work and my e-learning services to a commercial lead because it's not relevant to them. Just like I'm not going to talk about my commercial work or my commercial services to an e-learning lead because it's not relevant to them. So I do not have just one generic follow-up sequence for new leads. I'm going to be using, and this is something I've only recently started doing, so I'm only using one right now, but what I will be doing is I will be using multiple follow-up sequences because before I did it all manually. Now I'm going to be using multiple follow-up sequences, but they're going to be targeted based on genre so that the things that are in those messages are much more targeted. Good question. Would you add your background to your website, stating things like you have authentic knowledge, experience with doing? Yes, 100%. Why not? I think there's an opportunity for that in your bio, obviously. Nothing wrong with talking about the things that you've done in the past, but I especially would say that there is an opportunity to highlight some of those things where they would have specific relevance to voiceover. Everybody's heard me talk about it, but I'll say it again. one of the examples that I use is with e-learning. I am certified for teaching the adult learner. I did college courses and got college certification for teaching the adult learner. So that is something that I would absolutely talk about and do talk about when I am marketing my e-learning services, because I think that that has relevance there. So that's something that you could include on a website, on a landing page that was, genre specific landing page, and you could specifically talk about that. So yes, I definitely think that there are opportunities where you have something unique that you bring to the table, a particular background, a particular skill. Let's just say that you spent the first 20 years of your life working in finance. There's a relevance to voiceover. There can be a relevance to voiceover there if you're reaching out to banks or if you're reaching out to fintech space. There's definitely a relevance there. In the same way that, let's say you spent 25 years working in medical. Well, certainly that lends itself, or potentially lends itself, to medical narration. And so that would be a value add, because you are able to bring that knowledge, experience, skill set, etc., to the medical narration genre. Guys, I don't know if I mentioned this or not. It's November 1st. Halloween is over. And so Christmas is in full swing now in this house. My Charlie Brown Christmas tree has been up in my office for, actually it never comes down, but the lights are on it now, turned on now. I started sending emails yesterday for the 12 voiceover gifts of Christmas. So the prize collection is already in full swing for the 12 voiceover gifts of Christmas. I can tell you right now, because you are here and you are watching, and so that gives you special rights to insider information. Joe Cipriano has already signed on for the 12 voiceover gifts of Christmas, and Tina Marasco has already signed on for the 12 voiceover gifts of Christmas. Uncle Roy, check your inbox. I reached out to you. So that is in full swing. So you're going to be hearing a little bit more about that over the coming weeks. My goal is to have the page ready, all the contest details sorted out, and the website sign-up page ready to be launched by Thanksgiving. That is the goal. So that's what we're working towards. But the 12 voiceover gifts of Christmas will be happening again this year. I have to tell you, though, I'm feeling pressure this year. Last year, for the contest, we had 67 winners, and we gave away a total of $24,322 in prizes. Let me say that again. 67 winners, $24,322 in prizes. And I'm feeling like that's the benchmark now. So there's a little bit of pressure there. That's a lot of money in prizes to try and replicate again. Whether we get there or not doesn't matter. The spirit of the contest is just to have a lot of fun and try to give back a little bit over the holiday season. So very much looking forward to it. But for those of you that may have been wondering, or for those of you who have never heard of it before, 12 voiceover gifts of Christmas, it is my intention fully to have it returned for 2024. And the first couple of people have already signed up for it. What do you do if a production company does e-learning, corporate, commercial, and animation? How do you sort that into your genre-specific follow-ups? So I think there's two approaches here. One, what is the genre that you are reaching out to them for specifically? Is there one that you're reaching out to them specifically? Or is there a genre that they seem to do much more than others? So every once in a while, you'll go onto a production company website and you'll see that 90% of the work that they're doing is actually corporate video. But they have the ability to do this, 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 and this. So in that case, I would probably target them corporate. So that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it would be that you have a more broad-based follow-up sequence. So I can have a targeted commercial sequence. I could have a targeted e-learning sequence. I could have a targeted corporate sequence. But I could have a more broad-based video production sequence and talk about the different genres that they do and the different genres that I do, and how there are multiple opportunities for us to collaborate as a result of that. So I think either one of those approaches could potentially work. Are you sending the same holiday card to all genres, and are you sending them to leads too? So when I did branded Christmas postcards in the past, Each one of those cards was handwritten. So the branded card itself was the same, but I took the time to write a little note, not a huge thing, but took the time to write a little note. But I sent that specifically to clients. There's no way that I could have done that for everybody. So that was a very specific targeted approach to marketing to clients that I had worked with that year. Again, just a reminder, new episode of the podcast right here on the YouTube channel, and also wherever fine podcasts are given away for free. You'll find it at VOpreneur.com. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's on Spotify. It's all over the place. This is a truly inspiring story of how Sarah Kramer pursued her dream to do narration for Disney Lucasfilm. And ultimately, she achieved her goal and is currently doing actually a couple of characters on Young Jedi Adventures, Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures. It is really an inspiring story and a lot of good advice in there because we got into specific strategies and tactics of things that Sarah did to try to make it happen and how she got in front of some of the people that she needed to get in front of. So absolutely an episode that I think you should be checking out. Of course, it's my show, so my opinion may be biased, but it is right here on the YouTube channel, and it is wherever fine podcasts are given away for free. So check that out. Where are we at? 151. All right. I could stick around for 10 more minutes, answer a few more questions. If there's anything that you would like to know, don't be shy. Again, Free Advice Friday is this is your opportunity to ask questions and get answers. Anything voiceover business and marketing related, I am certainly happy to answer as many questions as I can. I can't always confirm or promise that the advice will be good, but I can always promise that it will be free. And so, at least on this live stream. But certainly doing my best to give out some good answers to the questions that you guys are asking. So if there's something that you would like to know, please don't be shy. Type your question in the comments. Put a Q first if you can. That helps it to pop out on my screen, makes it a little bit easier for me to find. But what do you want to talk about? What can I help you with? Ex-full-time copywriter in an ad agency recently landed an $8,000 US job, and the key to winning that audition was because I completely rewrote the audition script and made it so much better. Hey, I mean, if you got the ability to do it, it's an option. Would I advise that everybody do something like that? Not necessarily. However, and this is something that I've done when I'm working on foreign projects in particular, and where I can see that there's been an obvious translation that has taken place. Every once in a while, if I see a script that's maybe not totally right, or maybe could be improved in some ways, I won't just do it, but I will certainly mention the fact that, hey, by the way, if you want me to take a look at the script for you, or if you would like any feedback on the translation or whatever. And every once in a while, they're very open to that. And so that's another thing that I think that can be a value add, right? That's just providing great customer service. But it's also important for me. When I do these voiceovers, one of the things that I am hoping is that I'm going to be able to get at least a certain percentage of these jobs that I can use for portfolio purposes. I want to be able to take those jobs and share them on social media or put them on my website or whatever. So I want it to be as good as possible. It's in my best interest as well for that to be as good as possible. And so that can be a value add service that I can offer. So well done for doing that. Anybody else? Any other questions that you would like to ask, or any other questions that I can answer for you? Don't be shy. I am currently working on putting together the November and December episodes of the podcast. I did an interview last week with George the Tech, and we are going to be talking about all the hot new gear that all the cool kids want. So that one's going to come out just in time for your Black Friday shopping. So if there are studio upgrades that you were hoping to make, and maybe you want to take advantage of a Black Friday special or a Cyber Monday special, or put something on your wish list for Santa Claus, for example, George and I talk about a lot of different equipment, microphones, interfaces, acoustic treatments, just general gadgets and gadgets that you might want for your studio. We cover a lot of ground in that one. So that one's going to be coming out in a couple of weeks. I can't even remember what else I got. I'm drawing blanks right now, but I'm working on some stuff anyway. So some cool stuff coming up on the podcast. Hopefully things that you will enjoy and that you will learn from. For jobs you've booked, what do you do afterwards to encourage repeat and rebooking? I just don't want them to forget about me. That's where I think follow-up is really key. And so one of the easiest options is social media. I make sure that I try to connect with all of my clients on social media so that I can drop a comment on something they shared on Instagram, or I can drop a comment on something that they've done on LinkedIn. And so that way I'm just always there. And so it's not just about, hey, do you have any work for me? Hey, do you have any work for me? Hey, would you like to book me again? It's just building the relationship, nurturing the relationship. So social media gives a really easy way of doing that. So I certainly take advantage of that. And then pop into their email inbox every once in a while when I've got something of value to offer too. And so that's the biggest thing, is just staying top of mind. What are your thoughts on Source Connect? I had remembered that you really didn't use it often. Yeah, for me, the types of jobs that I'm doing, it's not something that I use a lot. I think Source Connect is great. I think most agents pretty much require you to have it nowadays. I think if you're working in the commercial space in particular, it's really important. Any of the broadcast genres, ultimately. Here's my advice for Source Connect. If it's something that you're not using a lot, or if you don't have an agent yet who is telling you have to have it, then what I would say is download it, run a free trial, get familiar with how it works, understand how to set it up on your computer, but don't subscribe yet. You can sign up for a pass for Source Connect. So if you book a job where you have to have Source Connect, you can sign up for it at that point, and you could do the day pass or 2-day pass or whatever it is, or sign up for a month and then cancel it again when you're done. But I think it's important that you have a general understanding of how it works just in case. And so that's where I would say take the free trial, put it on your computer, get comfortable with it. There's not a lot to it. There's a little bit of setup that goes into it, but you can learn how to do that. But do I think that every voice actor needs to just run out and subscribe to Source Connect immediately? Not necessarily. It depends on the work that you're doing. I can tell you in the last 3 years, I have done 3 or 4 Source Connect sessions. Now, I could probably connect you with some other voice actors who have done 3 or 4 Source Connect sessions this week. Again, it depends on the type of work that you're doing, I think. There you go. Uncle Roy says 2-day short-term license is $25. That is probably all that the vast majority of us need. And if you need more, you can always subscribe at that point and unsubscribe anytime. But just know that there are solutions for, like, oh crap, I need Source Connect. This client wants it. I don't have it. What do? Do the day pass. I need to find a Source Connect support buddy because I cannot get it to work with a DAW so that I can backup record. All right, Cameron. Well, Uncle Roy just posted in the chat there. Let's talk. Uncle Roy's one of the good ones. Somebody that I absolutely trust. So you can send a message to Uncle Roy after the live stream. Message him through Facebook or through his website, antlandproductions.com, and he will get you sorted out. He is my go-to studio guru. All right, guys, thank you so much, as always, for joining me for Free Advice Friday. I truly do appreciate it. Don't forget to check out Cash In on the holidays. This is going to be a really great live workshop, a 1-hour workshop, going to give you a dozen plus low-cost, no-cost strategies for marketing your voiceover business over the holidays. If you are unable to attend live, sign up anyway. You will get access to a complete video recording, so you'll be able to go back and watch that anytime you want. I understand November 5th is election day for the United States, so it's not a great day for some people. But then again, maybe we're all going to need a little emotional support on November 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern, in which case you can find that by attending the live workshop, and we'll do it all together on Zoom. So a couple of dates. It will be the same class that I'll be teaching. I'm just doing it 2 different dates and 2 different times to accommodate different time zones and whatnot. So November 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern and November 7th at 1 p.m. Eastern. If you go to VOpreneur.com and click on the store button, you'll see it there. Cash in on the holidays. Choose whichever one is best fitted for you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you next week in that workshop and teaching that class and getting you all set and ready to go to market for the holidays. Thank you for joining me as always for Free Advice Friday. Can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys giving up an hour on your Friday afternoon to hang out with me and ask some questions. Genuinely grateful for it. If you have another question that you want to ask that you think about later, remember that the VOpreneur Facebook group exists and you can certainly post questions in there. And I try to answer as many things as I can in that group as well. Don't eat too much Halloween candy this week. You don't need cavities or tummy aches. Okay. But also don't be afraid to take the dad tax from your children. I think it's fair. I think we've earned at least, a portion of the candy. And I think it's really important to teach your kids financial lessons about things like taxes as well. And so doing it through candy, I think that's a more than fair way to do it. So my kids pay the dad tax, trust me. All right, guys, whatever you decide to do this weekend, have fun, stay safe, and go find some leads.